Welcome everyone. So D-Wave is up by 75% since releasing Q4 earnings, and I believe the bull run is fueled by mainly two factors. Of course, the first one is the spectacular Q1 guidance that the CEO provided for the first quarter in 2025. We're talking about 10 million in revenue, which is slightly above the entire revenue generated in 2024. Not bad. Most of that revenue is coming from the bookings that the company generated in the past quarter in Q4, particularly from a big sale that they announced with a research organization in Switzerland. More details on in a moment. However, I think the main reason for this bull run is probably not from a fundamental perspective, and it might be from a speculation perspective. And that is because tomorrow we have NVIDIA's Quantum Day. And you can see the lineup. We have a lot of CEOs from quantum computing companies, either pure play or companies like Microsoft or AWS as well. So tomorrow is going to be an interesting event. And to what I'm seeing, Rigetti is up as well over the past, I would say, slightly over a week. Quantum computing, same. I believe QBT, I believe the CEO is not going to participate at NVIDIA's Quantum Day. So I don't know. Is this justified? Probably not. Moving on, IonQ. So IonQ has also increased, although not that much. I believe because the bull run we've seen in Q4 last year was already high. So I don't think the stock price can go back again to the 40s or the 50s. But we'll see. We'll see. In any case, I believe there is a big risk that quantum stocks are going to sell off on a phenomenon that is commonly known as sell on the news. So there could be a sell on the news crash tomorrow. And that's why at this moment, I would rate D-Wave as a hold. I don't think it's a buy right now because the risk for a sell-off is significant considering tomorrow's event. That said, if we exclude tomorrow's event and maybe it's going to be a sell-off and the price is going to cool off, then I believe this company could be an interesting buy for a long-term position. And by long-term, I mean several years. So in this video, what I'm going to do is a simple review on what I believe are the most important factors for a bull case. And I will also mention some of the risks. I think I already said the first one, but there are other ones to consider. Great. Let's start with the financial update. So 2024, we had a huge increase in annual bookings, 128% year over year. What is actually interesting is to know when those bookings happened. Not all of them, but the major increase. So Q4 24, you can see a 5x increase in bookings over Q4 23. So, as soon as I saw this figure, I was wondering, okay, so what happened in Q3 last year? So here is the earnings press release from Q3. And you can see that bookings were 2.3 million. As a matter of fact, they were even worse than 2023. So most of this increase in bookings came from Q4, and we're talking about 16 million sequential increase. So Q4 was a big quarter for D-Wave. Now, one of the differentiating factors that the company has is the fact that they can actually sell quantum computers to real customers. And the other quantum stocks, they kind of can, some of them they have contracts, some of them they have grants, but in the commercial space, they are actually struggling to succeed. And that's where I believe D-Wave could be an interesting opportunity because they are the only quantum stock that have proven to be commercially feasible today, not several years from now. That said, I don't expect profitability in the next years. That's for later on. All right, so moving on, speaking of profitability, you can see gross profits. Hopefully you can see them ticking up by 20% in the past quarter. So I believe the increase was motivated by the Leap system. So what is the Leap? It's a cloud-based solution where users, they send requests to the server processes the request, and of course it uses the computational power of D-Wave's on-premise quantum computers. And once that is processed, the response goes back to the user. So the benefit of using this online cloud-based tool is that users, they don't have to bring in on premises these huge machines. And you will see in a moment how large a quantum computer is. So I believe the increase is because this is, of course, an online revenue, which will have, a nice margin. I'm not sure exactly about the margins. I don't think management shared them already. But yeah, the Leap platform is an interesting way to generate revenue. It's an interesting revenue stream. Moving on, debt is gone, which is great, and the cash position is up to about 300 million at the beginning of December, which is great because in the earnings call, management said that it should be enough until they reach profitability. Now, based on that statement alone, if we have a look at the cash flow statement, you will see that in a moment. We're talking about 40 million in cash burn per year, approximately. So that will be about 7 to 8 years. It will take 7 to 8 years to burn all this cash. Maybe this is a hint from management on when they plan to become profitable, on a GAAP basis. But again, this is just my thoughts, because I found it interesting that management actually said that the cash is going to last until they become profitable. So that's the deadline. Great. So moving on, we have the concept of quantum supremacy, which seems to be the argument that the company is using to differentiate itself from the competitors. And it's a valid argument because they published a peer-reviewed paper in the Science magazine. So, of course, the article was called Beyond Classical Computation in Quantum Simulation. The article is actually here. Now, I won't go through the details on what's inside. However, the whole article is showing how the company managed to prove that their quantum computer was able to solve a problem in minutes, whereas a classical supercomputer would have taken 1,000,000 years. So it's quite an interesting paper, and I believe that it's the bull run. It might have been triggered by this publication. So this is one of the first hints that the company is differentiating itself by, actually having solid products for real-world applications. And that term, quantum supremacy, it was actually first used by Google back in 2019. And that's when, they used their old Sycamore processor. Of course, now they have the Willow. And, they used a processor that had about 53 qubits. That's nothing compared to D-Wave's. I think it's about 1,200 is the Advantage 2, although it can go up to 5,000 for the first Advantage. So we're talking about, problems that can be solved in about 200 seconds that will take 10,000 years in a classical computer. So speaking of this differentiating factor, the company is pushing for a campaign that's called Quantum Realized. I like actually this campaign because the CEO sent a letter. I believe it was not just to the shareholders, but it was just a a letter to everyone to clarify some of the misunderstandings in the quantum space. So he actually started the letter by saying that big tech leaders, they demonstrated that they don't fully understand the nuances of quantum computing. And of course, he was referencing to this guy, because on January 7th, 2025, at the CES event, Jensen, he made a statement, which is this one right here, that, real quantum computers will only be, solving real problems in 15 years. That statement alone tumbled pretty much the entire quantum space. Rigetti on that day was down by 45%, D-Wave down by 36%, and again, all that was in just one statement. So that tells you the level of speculation that we have on these quantum stocks. What I like about the CEO, about D-Wave's CEO, is that he addressed this statement just on the day after, live on CNBC. And I recommend you to read the article and to watch the actual interview, because it just proves that the CEO is proactive into defending his company and differentiating, by the way, his company by from the other quantum stocks. As a quick side note, D-Wave is using annealing quantum systems, and other competitors, pretty much anyone else, they're using gate-based systems. So the problem with gate-based is the interference problems, and they're not reliable. That's the main issue. And annealing systems, at the moment, they are. However, they only outperform in optimization problems. So that's where they excel. And I believe in the other applications, they are not as fast as classical supercomputers. So moving on, we have the earnings call. So some remarks that I found interesting. So again, when the CEO started the session, he emphasized on that quantum supremacy by publishing the paper in Science on the day before the call. That's where they proved that the Advantage 2 quantum system, which has about 1200 qubits, is able to solve real-world computational problems in minutes, whereas classical computers will take 1 million years. And I think the statistic that I like is that it will require more than the world's annual electricity consumption to solve this problem using the supercomputer. So something to take into account. In terms of development, they're focusing on the 6th generation annealing quantum computer. And Advantage 2 it's rapidly progressing, and they said that they are recently announced the calibration of a third 4400 qubit Advantage 2 processor. So these are some of the developments that they have. And in their presentation, they say that they can go up to 5,000 qubits. I believe it was here. However, what I found interesting is that the larger the qubits, it's not the same as the better the processor. And when I say better, I mean the more computational power it has. That was actually one of the statements that he made. I think it was here. Yeah. So the CEO, he said that 1200 qubits, they are significantly more powerful than 5,000. And these are two different versions of that quantum computer. So Advantage 2 is the latest one, and Advantage is the legacy version. They said that they're finishing calibrating a third system, and they plan to roll that commercially, which is great. So moving on, they actually emphasized on the way they plan to scale up the processing power. So instead of focusing on increasing the number of qubits, which of course, you could have some interference issues, the larger the number, What they're planning to do is to simply add more chips. So the idea is to interconnect chips, possibly in the 4,000 to 5,000 qubit range, and that's where the most of the development or R&D will be focusing on going forward. So this is quite interesting because yeah, it's I don't know. I believe, in my view, that the biggest risk that I see is that the larger this number is, the less efficient or the most reliable the computer is. So solving this interconnecting problem between the different chips, I believe, could be a big announcement if they achieve it this year. Speaking of research and development, they spent about 35 million in the past year, which is something to consider. That's if the cash burn was about 40 million. So if I go to the cash flow statement, 42 million in the past year. Most of that was R&D. So it's pretty much in the early stage, and even though they're generating revenue, it's not enough to offset these costs. Great. So moving on, one of the biggest announcements was the sale of a quantum computer to Zulik supercomputing to the Zulik supercomputing center. So essentially, this is a HPC, so high performance computing center, and the main applications that they're planning or they're targeting to do with the quantum computer is to facilitate breakthroughs in AI and quantum optimization applications. And I think this can be quite interesting. If they achieve any breakthrough in AI, we will see some headlines. Great. So moving on, we have, in addition to the sale with Zulik, they have discussions with 3 other institutions. So this is a statement that I didn't like that much, because he said that I'm not going to tell you that we expect to see 3 more system sales anytime soon. So this anytime soon is a bit, maybe they don't know when they're going to realize the revenue, or not even the revenue, but the bookings from these other institutions. And on the back of that, analysts wanted to know how long a system sale generates revenue. So of course you have the installation, of course you have maintenance and other ancillary services, and this was actually a topic that I will discuss in a moment. So 3 more institutions, but there is no clear date on whether they will buy or when they will buy. So the revenue, as I said, 10 million for Q1 25, and as they say, a significant part of the revenue will come from the sale of the Advantage annealing quantum computer, which was done in Q4. So total revenue, as I said, it was about 8.8 million for the past 12 months. So just in Q1 alone, that's going to reach, the same revenue or even more than last year. This is the question that I mentioned before from one of the analysts, that they wanted to know, first he wanted to know why that guidance of 10 million is there. So yeah, I believe this was the CFO. So he mentioned that most of that 10 million is from the installation and the acceptance of the system, and there was no revenue recognized in Q4 for that system sale. So that is expected to happen in Q1. And the question that was quite interesting is, how many quarters can the revenue run for one system sale? And what the CEO said is that the system, of course, it was installed, but it was not upgraded with the Advantage 2 chip. So a big part of the revenue is when they install the system, and that, according to him, that already happened in Q1. And then the other parts of the revenue will be realized when they upgrade to the Advantage 2, and then some maintenance work will also be also taken into consideration. Great. So moving on, this was one of the statements from the CEO. I found interesting is because they're focusing on AI machine learning, and yeah, if the strategy suddenly focuses now on data center processing, well, that could be an interesting field considering the current hype for AI. So great. And this was the statement that I mentioned before. So 300 million in cash on hand. So they believe it's enough to get us sustain profitability. Yeah. So that was the statement. And I don't know if you consider 40 million in cash burn over close to 7 years, that's about 300 million. But of course, the cash burn can increase, so it can be less. It's obvious, but yeah, something to consider. Now, other things I found interesting is that China is also joining the party in quantum computing. They released the Zhongzi 3 quantum system, and they claim that it has a significant performance or a similar performance to Google's Willow. Now, two last things I found interesting is that D-Wave is including a 3-month free trial period for customers that are a bit skeptical on quantum computing. So that trial includes access to an Advantage quantum system, to the Leap real-time cloud service, what I mentioned before. So this is the service where people send requests through cloud. And then, of course, that is being processed on-site D-Wave's premises where they have their own quantum computers. And then that response is sent back to the user. So the user doesn't have to install these computers on their site. And finally, technical guidance from their experts. And during the call, I also wanted to note that the company is offering incentives to organizations that have been disappointed with the results they have seen from other competitors. So it seems that there is some dissatisfaction and issues in regards to reliability and uptime among the competitors. I believe there could be some of these guys, Rigetti, Qubit, IonQ. It could be some of them. So yeah, I think D-Wave, they can differentiate itself in a positive way because annealing quantum computers, they seem to work. Great. In any case, even though I believe the company could be a buy in the long term, right now things don't make much sense. I mean, earnings, they happened on the 13th before the market opened. Yeah. So since then, the peak went close to 100%, and now we have 75. So I don't know how long they will be able to sustain this bull run, because it might hype there might be there like it was in Q4. So we'll see tomorrow what will happen. I think, in my view, that the risk of a sell on the news is quite high. So for the moment, I wouldn't touch this stock. But anyways, that's according to my view. So as you know, this is not financial advice. So just my thoughts. Great. So I think that's it. I think that's pretty much sums up my thoughts on D-Wave. Yeah. Thank you very much for watching, and I'll see you in the next one.